For our next standalone, though, we're going to be bringing up Jonathan Wilson from Dub Value Creation LLC. And Jonathan is a dynamic value creation professional focused on mergers, acquisitions, and strategy with 25 years of experience. He is currently the CEO and chief value creator for the company, a management consulting firm with business brokering and investment banking capabilities. So everyone, a little round of applause for Mr. Wilson.
So I want to start with a thank you, by the way. I mean, it's been great. I think this conference has been great. I think Richard Wilson's great. I'm going to tag on to what he actually talked about a few minutes ago when he talked about controlled chaos. M&A is controlled chaos. Some of the things that you want to emphasize are some of the very things that can you guys hear me? Thank you. I was just saying I wanted to start off with a thank you to Richard Wilson and really tag on or add on to what he was talking about before. He talks about controlled chaos. M&A really is controlled chaos. Some of the things he emphasized were around extreme focus, fast moving, and super decisiveness. Those are very much things that you need in the M&A process. Hopefully you pick a partner like Dub Value as you do that. Give you a little background on our company. Let me just move this. There we go. There we go. Working through this, right? Just a little bit of background on our company. We are a Los Angeles-based boutique investment bank and management consulting firm. Keep in mind that we work with companies that are typically under $50 million in revenue. We work primarily with C-suite leaders. Some of the things that we worked on most recently was working with a family-run company, and that was they had 35 million in revenue, and we helped them with a pretty good exit. So that's something that we are very, very excited about and very happy to do for others as well. Just a little background on myself as well. My name is Jonathan Wilson, again, CEO and Chief Value Creator. We focus on probably a lot of different areas. However, we want to really hone in on technology and innovation. And also we hone in on professional services. If you look at my background, it's been varied over the past 20 plus years, working with Accenture, Bank of America, Grant Thornton, Deloitte Consulting. Those are all things that led me up to what Dub Value Creation is. Also allows me to understand the value of having M&A consulting as well as investment banking. Allows a process. We operate with care and we operate with methodologies as well as helping you actually close a transaction. So we help you negotiate throughout the process. Again, I talked about this yesterday. One of the biggest things that we have to work with is, what do you want to do as a family office? Where does your strategy come into play? Are you looking at a strategy? Have you even looked at what your holdings are, your business holdings are? Again, key result areas. What are the areas that you guys want to focus on? Key objectives. What are the key objectives, at least for the next 12 months? Going from there, SMART goals, right? You want to think about specific, measurable, actionable, and accountable, realistic, and then time-based. What are those goals going to be for the year? And no, you don't have to have a 50 to 100 page line to identify what your SMART goals are. But you need to identify some goals for this year to tangibly know that you're actually meeting your KPIs or even that you're not meeting your KPIs. Metrics and measurement, that's exactly how are you actually going to measure those things? It's important to say, you know what, I want to have 50 million in revenue by the end of next year. Is that realistic? I don't know, but how are you going to measure it? If you don't have a system to measure that or an adequate system to measure that in, then you might want to think about what you want to do next. In terms of tracking approach, how you're going to track that, creating actionable steps for that, and then obviously your monthly governance routines or even quarterly governance routines. Now let's get into the meat of the presentation. As a family office, people tend to hold, they buy and hold, right? So what are the 10 reasons or 10 considerations for divesting? 1, portfolio diversification. Yes, it's important to think about what are my holdings, what geography are they in, what industry are they in, what type of business. If all of your holdings are dependent on steel, where there's steel in Mexico or steel in Canada, you're probably not doing very well, right? You want to make sure you're diversified, you're thinking about the future, thinking about opportunities on where you actually might have to think about buying something or divesting something. Market timing and valuation opportunity. Again, favorable market conditions and you get a high valuation, sometimes you might want to take it because you may not come again. Give you a story. I had an IT services company come to me. He had great offers on the table. He said, you know what? These aren't high enough. 6 months later, his business started floundering. He ended up having to do an acqui-hire, which was a different type of sale, which basically didn't give him the value that he was actually going to get in the first bit. It went down by about a third. He basically sold his company for a third of what he could have gotten for it. Underperformance, strategic misalignment. Those are things you really want to dive into, right? You want to think about, okay, so my company is not performing where I want it to be based on the KPIs that I set forth, hopefully through your strat plan. If it's not performing, where are you looking at areas for you to improve it? Do you want to spend the time to improve it? Or is now a time to let go and let another management team take it over? Succession issues. Again, succession issues are fantastic, where you start thinking about, okay, what's my succession plan going to be? If, on the other hand, you think about, if you can't identify another layer of management below you that's going to take over the team, or if the family, or if your family members in the next generation don't want to take it over, that can be a challenge. Your exit strategy execution, we'll get into exit strategy in a minute. But again, you want to have, for every single business holding that you have, you want to be thinking through, what are the different exit options? How am I tracking against those exit options? A 3 to 5 year exit or holding process might be something you want to make sure you dive into. It could be something as long as 8 to 10 years, but have an exit plan, right? Is it going to be based on KPIs? Is it going to be based on longevity? Is it going to be based on growth? What are the things I want to make sure I'm focused on? Is it going to be based on it could be based on lifting up other areas of your portfolio. Strategic partnership opportunities, dig into that a little bit. Sometimes you're better together, right? If there's a company that you're working with, that you're partnering with, and you realize, wait a minute here, we can be stronger together, maybe it's important to go in an M&A opportunity from that perspective. Shift in the economic or industry dynamics, right? Again, looking at what the economy is doing, keeping track of all the market metrics, keeping track of how your industry is tracking and performing. Those are things you want to dive into on a regular basis. I don't know if you guys look at GDP Now, but GDP Now gives a good sense of what the market metrics are and how they predict what the GDP is going to be for a given quarter. So I typically look at that almost on a regular basis just to see where the GDP is tracking. I want to make sure I'm looking at a good economy, a bad economy. When we had those 2 consecutive negative quarters, I think it was like 2022, that was important for us to be looking at and tracking to. We can know what's coming. We can know what we want to think about and how we want to move our companies accordingly. And is now the right time to be divesting our companies? The next piece, conflict among family members. I'll tell you right now, one of the companies that we sold recently was a company where the third generation and the second generation did not see eye to eye. Second generation was ready to get out. Third generation was saying, you know what? We need just 5 more years to make this great. However, they needed the right push in order to make that happen. And so the best solution for them was actually sell the company and actually make sure they got the right push from a PE firm and have the second bite of the apple. Regulatory or tax considerations. Those are really important too. As the regulatory landscape changes, supposedly in this next 4 years, the regulatory changes might be actually more favorable to more regulated industries. We'll have to see how that manifests. Tax considerations. Again, we want to think about tax considerations. Are we going to be taxed higher in certain sectors? Are there going to be import taxes? Those are all things we want to be thinking about as we plan for the next few years. Liquidity needs. There's no shame in saying, I need more money to live my life. So if that's something you want to divest your company for, there's no shame in doing that. So those are some good reasons for why you might want to divest your company. So here we go into the 8 types of exits, right? One is the flat out sell side M&A experience. We'll go into the methodology around that and how we actually do that. Second is around selling a stake. Sometimes it's not worth to sell the entire company. You just want to sell a stake to a partner. Third, family succession, right? Leaving it to your heirs or letting it go to the next generation. Acqui-hires, again, that's a process where you're actually allowing someone to just hire the people that are in your company. I want to make sure that they have a home, but at the same time, you're ready to fold the company or you're ready for the company to move on. Sometimes people just get bored and they're like, I'm tired. Now's not the best time to sell, but I don't want my people to be stuck, right? Or stuck without a job at least. Management and employee buyouts. This allows an opportunity for your employees to really buy the organization. This is another way, again, to divest your organization. IPO. Hey, wouldn't we all love a good IPO? I would love a good IPO personally. Liquidation. This is something where you're kind of in a bind, right? And you want to make sure that you're able to look at all the assets you have in the company and say, you know what, maybe I'm better off just taking the money and going and maybe reinvesting in something else that you really want to do. In bankruptcy, that's probably the last option, but it is a consideration for how you want to exit your company, and that is usually a forced decision. But those are 8 types of exits and things for you to think about as you think about the type of exit that you want for your company. I want to make sure that you guys are very thoughtful around the exits in your portfolio and how you want to move forward. This dives a little bit more into our sell side strategy. So again, you want to think through, what is your M&A sell side strategy? Are you looking to divest a few companies over the course of the next few years? Are you looking to divest one company every few years? What does that look like? Seller marketing. Again, you want to make sure you're marketing your company the right way. Some of the things you want to be thinking about is your confidential information memorandum. You want to think about your marketing plan. Who am I actually reaching out to? Who is my ideal buyer? Wait a minute here. Do I want a financial buyer? Do I want a strategic buyer? Or do I want to just sell it to my employees? Those are things you want to think about, especially during that seller marketing phase. While you're in the seller marketing phase, you want to make sure you get some good indication of interest from people, and then move ideally into your due diligence, to your buyer and investor assessment area. That allows you to take a look at those that are interested and say, you know what, is this the right person for my company? Or is this the right buyer for my company? So you've already marketed to people. You've gotten some yeses. And now it's time for you to say, okay, out of the yeses, who's the best fit? You want to really interview them as much as they're interviewing you. You want to make sure you're looking at allowing them to do a site visit. You're having meetings with them to understand a little bit more around what they think about culture. Make sure the company's in the right hands. At the same time, also, you want to make sure you understand what they mean by due diligence. Are they thinking operational due diligence and financial due diligence? What are they thinking through on that? Once you go through due diligence, I got to tell you right now, that's probably the most stressful time of the transaction. Talk about controlled chaos. That is very stressful, extremely stressful. You want to be thinking about, all right, as I go through this, do I have everything that I need to leave the company in the right hands? And the buyer's thinking, all right, is this the right company for me? Is this something that, are they able to say that they are the person or the company that they said they were in the beginning of the conversations? You want to make sure you have proof behind the pudding. The next piece, obviously, thinking through that day one cutover plan, right? What does day one look like as you think through your next steps? What am I going to do afterwards? How am I going to transition this into the right hands? How long am I going to stay with the company? Those are all things you want to think through, also during that due diligence and deal execution phase. Also, everything that's in the LOI, it's great, but it's non-binding. In the deal execution, everything becomes binding. So everything you thought you were pseudo okay with, now in writing, you see that, you're like, wait a minute here, that's not what I meant, or that's not what I thought. So make sure you're very clear during this phase, or even in the LOI process, that you understand what they mean when they talk about what's in the LOI. Transition, again, that's a period of time that could be 90 days, where you're actually transitioning the company over. Sometimes there might be money held back in escrow as you think through it. When you look at money held back in escrow, that could be something based on how the company is going to perform, or if you miss something on your closing period. Those are things that basically they're holding money back. You may get that money a little bit later. You may get a subset of that money later. But again, you're still on a little bit because you want to make sure that you want to make sure you get as much money back on that escrow as you can. All right, let's move into the next section, which is more around the 10 reasons to acquire. Wealth, preservation, and growth. How great would it be to have a company that can allow you a different stream of income? Portfolio risk and reduction. That's one of those things where you definitely want to make sure you're thinking about your portfolio risk as a whole. Control and influence. Again, this allows for control over strategic decisions, culture, long-term vision, and it may align with desire for patient capital strategies, right? We all talk about patient capital strategies. Well, companies can sometimes help you get there. Direct cash flow generation. Every company hopefully has some kind of cash flow. Hopefully it's positive. And in that case, hopefully you actually win in the long run. Family expertise. If your family's been known for being strong within a manufacturing industry or something along those lines, maybe that's something you want to actually hone in on or double click on. Legacy building and impact. Most companies are focused on the legacy building aspects and what they can leave behind. And that's what you want to do as a family as well. What is your legacy going to be as a family, right? How are you thinking about that? How can you build a portfolio that allows you to demonstrate that legacy or resemble that legacy? Succession and next generation involvement. Sometimes what you were excited about in the first generation is not what people are excited about in the third generation. So think about that as well. How can you evolve the portfolio to allow for those future leaders to be able to get the leadership that they need? Tax efficiency, structuring, and benefits. Again, those are things that you want to be focused on for purchasing a company. Special situations, unique characteristics, or unique opportunities. Again, there's going to be a lot of those. Economic trends of thematic investing. I recognize my time is almost up, but we're going to keep going through this really quick. And then, going through this really quick, M&A buy-side strategy. You want to be thinking about that as you buy. Target assessment. You want to make sure you're thinking about the type of company that you want. So diving into this a little bit further. Due diligence and day one planning. Again, you want to make sure you're planning for that company to become part of your control, where you have the keys in your hand. And then integration is something around the post-merger pieces of that. I do want to say thank you very much for this time. I apologize for going so fast, but I wanted to make sure I got through some of the highlights around acquiring and divesting. Make sure you're thinking about how you want to manifest your legacy and how you want to think about what the right divesting strategy looks like and the right acquisition strategy looks like. We have a booth out there if you want to come by and talk about it. We're giving 10% off of services, and we're also doing a raffle for a free valuation. So come on by. Thank you again for your time.